So Correlate is a company that has a slogan of curing digital chaos, which has been kind of revamped now to in order to declutter your headspace, then also keep your data organized. And Correlate is supposed to be a company that deal with distributed data, agnostic type of data management in a single workspace. So, and with cross-channel search, so it should be a company that can provide a way to quickly organize your data cross platforms, which we believe is a very important value proposition in this decade. We've just recently been exposed to the COVID-19 pandemic, lots of home office activities. People are not able to go to the office in the same way we did before the pandemic. So Correlate is want to be a strong player in that space of connecting people in the digital space, but also be able to quickly organize and work efficiently with lots of data.
I also want to highlight the collaboration aspect because, as Ola mentioned, it's about decluttering on an individual level and having one place where you organize all of your files, all of your emails, and have an overview of everything at the same place. But it also offers you a great opportunity to actually share files and collaborate with others. So even if you're using different type of cloud storages, such as Google Drive, OneDrive, Dropbox, you can still have one place where everyone can collaborate at once.
So Correlate started as a company that were mainly organizing files on the desktop, so not in the cloud. And in the last few years, we've seen that more or less all users are migrating to the cloud. So Correlate today is trying to do the same thing it started to do a few years back, but now integrating cloud storage services like Google Docs, OneDrive, Dropbox, etc., in one single workspace, and basically trying to keep the data organized and working with different types of integrations. Correlate, I think, understood that it could be a strong player in the cloud space, especially when we were facing the pandemic, because more people were obviously using virtual meetings, but they also need to work very efficiently on the same data. So Correlate has been re-energized, as an organization over the last year and a half to 2 years, and we see now that Correlate is part of a movement on the internet where we reach out to new user bases that are more distributed, but they work toward the same goal, and that's what we're trying to solve together with our users. How we can basically bring them together and unify their their data in a simple way.
I'd also like to add that I wasn't here when Correlate started. I wasn't working in the company, but just since the time that I started, which has been half a year, so much things are happening in Correlate. Because one of the things we really value is understanding our users and getting the feedback from them. And this is why it's also very valuable for us to have the opportunity to work with FEMaLe, so that we're really creating a product that is suitable for the users and that can really drive this type of impact around the world.
Well, I think it's imperative that Correlate can work with that type of partner, because you guys inherently are trying to find digital tools that that can sort of create a seamless organization, even though you are distributed. And the different types of stakeholders in project have different needs. In Correlate, we try to focus heavily on integrations. And some of the stakeholders in the FEMaLe project, value a certain type of integration, or they have specific integrations that they're already working with. So we're trying to listen to those needs and integrate those tools into this single workspace, and also getting continuously feedback and improving the Correlate app, so it can give you the ability to work with data, to always stay updated, whether you're on mobile or you're in your home office. So I think it's invaluable for us to have what I called very friendly beta users. So we all want the same. So and I think that is really gold in the era of trying to succeed as a startup and establish yourself as a long-term player in a very crowded space. We work with companies that are also pushing the bar, and some of these players are North American and others are European. So we really need to stay on top of the game, and I believe that working with the FEMaLe project is going to help us to gain that success together.
I'd also like to add that for me and for us as a team working in Correlate, it also means a lot to be part of these types of projects, just because it's a way for us to actually contribute to the world. And in these types of projects, we're working with solving really big problems that are affecting a lot of people. So for us as a technological company to be able to actually support this project and give you the best resources to collaborate and enable you to spend time on what matters is something that means a lot for me, and also a lot of the other people working in Correlate.
In our case, one of the deliverables, which is part of the FEMaLe project, is to provide a data management plan. And a data management plan, the core goal for a DMP, which is the abbreviation, is to basically take all the data, it could be the data sets or other types of interrelated things that are part of a research project, and archive it so you can reuse it later. And I think in terms of research and innovation in Correlate, we are trying to look at this DMP, but from an agnostic perspective, because inherently Correlate is connecting to data points through hyperlinks. So, I sometimes draw the analogy, when we grew up, we had CDs and we had DVDs. But today, we are more or less, all of us, part of the usage of having Spotify installed on our computer, or we use Netflix or HBO or Disney Plus. So streaming data is now something that is collectively accepted by the public. And by looking at these very valuable data sources, but from an agnostic perspective, that is something that is part of our research and innovation, and where we are heavily relying on the researchers that are part of the FEMaLe project to, together understand how we can do this in a way that is within the GDPR policies, but also is sustainable, and also efficient. So we all want to be more efficient around these things, but we also have to understand that there are some implications that needs to be addressed. So I think those points are at the core of our research and innovation, together with the FEMaLe project. Well, at the moment, we are focusing mainly on development. But as part of our strategy, we want to do scientific research. So that is definitely an ambition inside the Correlate organization. What we can say about, supporting, but also creating a platform for open science is that another project that has been part of the EU funding is Open Air. It's a European funded project which allows data sources to have digital object identifiers. So it's pretty much the same as an ISBN on a book. But since we rely on hyperlinks to point to the specific data sources, if we can connect that through a specific code, an identifier, then these data sets and other related research can suddenly be open up to the public. So instead of having, what we normally see, some scientific articles being published at conferences or journals, we can have the public take part of the research on a more day-to-day, week-to-week basis, and follow the progress more closely. And also that can give a different type of engagement and awareness in the public.
Another thing that we're working on also that relates to open science and this diffusion of knowledge is actually to enable users within the Correlate platform to be able to share data points more openly. And this is, of course, a balance between privacy and sharing information. And in that case, we have the option in Correlate that you can actually make certain content and certain boards with different data points public to the users, so that when we work with FEMaLe, we have the opportunity to actually reach out to a broader audience through Correlate as well. And this is also a feature that we're really looking into now, and how we can develop this in the best way possible to aid to this open science and diffusion of knowledge practices.
Correlate is a solution that connects data points. But one of our core ambitions for this year, 2022, is to implement a communication platform inside Correlate. And that allows the users to kind of redefine how you communicate what you're working on and how you disseminate part of the data, or how you communicate it in social media. So, so of course, that will be kind of like a shift in how a lot of these platforms have been kind of designed from the beginning. So instead of being a silo-based system where users, deal with their own data, maybe they can share to a certain degree, we inherently make it a communication platform. So that means that if you have a piece of data and you want to discuss it with someone, You can take it into, what we normally do in Messenger and WhatsApp and Telegram and platforms like that. But you can do it inside the Correlate platform, and you can also make it available to the public, as my colleague was mentioning in the previous answer. So that is definitely an uptake on research and innovation, and in how these platforms are perceived in the society and beyond. I think it ties into my previous answer on implementing a communication platform that kind of transcend all the activities in Correlate. Because, when you make it easier for humans to connect, new synergies develop naturally. And by having an easier way to share what you're working on, can also give, maybe people that are part of your team, but not necessarily having that focus. But it's a way to inspire, your own team members. But you can also, by sharing it on social media, bring awareness to other research communities that want to reach out and basically partner with the ongoing work. And I think that is how these dynamics can happen more naturally, by having a very transcending communication features in Correlate. So I think the communication tool is really going to be what is going to aid the ability to generate innovation-based growth, for our partners.
So innovation-based growth is something that is very important for us at Correlate as a company as well, because we're always working with users and trying to incorporate their opinions into the platform. So innovation is, of course, both about doing something new, but it's also about creating the value for the users. And this is what we always try to consider when we're developing new features, and also understanding in what direction we are going at as a company. And as was mentioned before, communication and adding communication to Correlate is one such example that is both new for the users, but then also something that we believe will generate a lot of value as well.
In Correlate, we try to be very aware of how we build our own organization. At the moment, we're close to 50-50. So we have, of course, ambitions to do employer branding, and hopefully over the next few months, when we grow as a company, invite more underrepresented minorities into our organization. And I think by sort of living that equality aspect inside the organization, it's going to hopefully transcend into how we develop our product. So, we know that dealing with cluttered data can very easily be a challenge to well-being. So in Correlate, instead of just focusing on tools that makes you more and more productive, we also want to focus equally on what it means to work efficiently, but also having life balance. So that means that, I guess, how the different types of users can customize Correlate into their own kind of workspace, which is different from other users, can also kind of give a deeper meaning to the word equality. So not only gender equality, but also equality being a concept that also impact how the system is designed.
And for me, it's also important as a part of Correlate that I can see both men and women represented in these different roles. Because in a lot of circumstances, especially in a tech company, you see a lot of men, but not that many women. And then it's not as easy to be part of the community, I would say. And also to understand that we are a lot of women who can actually contribute to the different parts of society and actually enable us to give room to this as well.
Well, Correlate and the FEMaLe project, we partnered around this kind of mutual ambition to organize distributed teams and also develop, as I was mentioning in one of the earlier answers, an agnostic data management plan. So how do we preserve the data and how can we make it easily recyclable in the future? So, so some of the research that is done through this partnership with the FEMaLe project can still be of value, several years from now. And also by having an application that can open this more out up to other communities that are indirectly interested in being part of this journey was the main reason that we partnered together, and we strongly believe that that we can reach some of the goals that we share.
And in addition to that, it's also a great opportunity for us to understand how we can further develop Correlate, and also how we can contribute to these types of communities and make life easier, and also make it easier to focus on what really matters in these circumstances. So the research and innovation part, and that the collaboration part is something that we can actually contribute with.
Our main responsibility is to be the digital solution that interrelate all the activities, all the data activities that the FEMaLe project is producing. So basically being the main toolkit. So that is the core deliverable for Correlate. But I should mention that we're all humans, and we're all trying to to bring awareness to an important topic, being endometriosis. So to understand how data can be conveyed to the public in a secure and engaging way is also something that naturally becomes a strong kind of shared vision between Correlate and the FEMaLe project. So I think we, inside the Correlate organization, we really care about our end users. So, of course, we're competent to build technology and tools, but in the end of the day, the end users needs to be happy and engaged. And so that very quickly becomes the focus when we have meetings like this, and we discuss our shared vision. Well, I think it's a bit early to conclude on that, because we haven't really fully engaged in our collaborative efforts yet. That's the activities on using Correlate is gonna really kick off in the beginning of this year. But I think, and my colleague here, we were briefly touching on this point this morning, is that in the FEMaLe project, you use machine learning. Technology, it's a very technology-driven project. And I think in terms of how we integrate, the different kind of third-party tools that the FEMaLe project already are using into this single workspace, and making it easy to communicate and disseminate data, so it can create the engagement and awareness that is, research projects today is measured on, how much impact level it has in the public. So I think this is, yeah. So we don't see the results yet, but we're very, very passionate and very much looking forward to basically onboard more female users into Correlate and help them to have the user satisfaction that that we all expect in today's digital platforms. So yeah, I think that's all I have. So
on a general level, I would also like to say that this project has such an important cause of helping people with endometriosis. And in that case, I would also say that success is very much about easier being able to diagnose people with endometriosis and actually give them the help that they need. And apart from that, of course, also creating awareness about this problem as well. And then apart from that, of course, Correlate and many other partners play a role in kind of aiding these kind of efforts as well.
I think there are many, many goals that we aim to gain from. The data management plan, which has been mentioned earlier here, is one very important aspect that we have to deliver on, and we have to also do research and innovation on it, and hopefully that can help other research communities around the world. So I think there is some groundbreaking work where we can be doing, coming up with some findings based on collaborating with the FEMaLe project and how we can create a sustainable DMP for the other research communities. Declutter data and making it unified in providing a single workspace, whether you are doing cross-channel search, you search through different types of storage services and email services, and extracting the most important data for your teams and your organization. I think that's the main value that we can provide. In addition to that, and also being mentioned in some of my earlier answers, is then taking that data, which very easily can be perceived as just another silo in the digital space, to be able to very efficiently and engagingly communicate on it, and then making it shareable to the public, whether it's a snippet of your findings or a bigger narrative. So and by that create a following of people that are interested in the problem that you guys, the FEMaLe project, is trying to solve for the public.
What we're also striving towards right now, and that we've been discussing a lot internally lately, is also to be able to layer information so that you easily can have an overview of what you need to do, all your documents, but then you also have the opportunity to dive more in depth on information as well, so that we have a platform where you can easily get the overview, but also kind of quickly find information that you need and dive deep into certain topics as well. So for me, the biggest pain point with endometriosis, from what I know so far, and I'd also like to say that I'm really not an expert within this area, but just what I've encountered in meetings with FEMaLe and what I've learned about the project so far, I would say that the biggest pain point is the misdiagnosis of endometriosis, and also that it is a very large problem and it affects a lot of different people around the world, actually. And yeah, I lost track. Can I go again?
You can go again. Ja, kan vi starte lige forfra her med spørgsmål 15? All right, you can go.
Okay, thank you. So from what I know about endometriosis so far and what I've learned through the FEMaLe project, I would say that the biggest pain point with endometriosis is that it affects a lot of women around the world, and also that we have a problem with misdiagnosing it. I would say that the biggest gain point, or rather the biggest possibility that we have here, is actually to find innovative solutions on how we can make this problem better. And of course, it's hard to answer what like the gains is when you haven't experienced it yourself. It's hard to talk for those people, but I would still say that it enables us to do these types of projects where we can actually use technology to gather a lot of data and find innovative solutions that can help us with endometriosis, and hopefully even use the same types of techniques and learn how we can help people with other diseases as well.
From a more kind of technology-oriented perspective, is that I have some people in my close proximity that have struggled to be understood, by practitioners on this diagnosis, and just when I got involved with Correlate and now working with the FEMaLe project, to communicate to some of these same people that we, building technology is very often related to something that is not necessarily doing or taking the world forward. It's about positioning yourself, making a business, and it's different types of kind of goals, when you start to establish yourself as a startup. But to be involved with something that has this types of dissemination strategy and awareness has also given me an understanding of how technology should be designed and also communicated. Not because I work in academia as an associate professor, so when I talk to the next generation designers and developers, to say like, you guys can create these tools, and it can help projects like the FEMaLe project to have more impact on the public, and thereby creating bigger awareness and making it easier for a whole lot of people to be understood and getting the help they need. So to see technology development through the lens of these kind of deeper human kind of ambitions has really given me, and through dialogue with just people in my life, new perspectives. And I'm very thankful for the opportunity to work on such a collaboration. And I think this is really gonna help our generation and the future generations to create solutions in a digital space that is for the good, and not having other kind of more corporate and capitalistic drivers as the underlying sort of factor of evaluating success or not. I think without having any knowledge in this domain per se, I think taking the experiences, the findings of working with Correlate and the FEMaLe project. So let's say we fast forward to the end of this collaboration. And if we see that the digital solutions really create a pathway for a broader awareness, not only for women, but for all people around the world, so they can basically be, support a knowledge-driven society where the women with these types of diagnoses can be respected and helped in the way they should. Then provide public funding to projects that promotes women's health, and have technology to be one of the main ingredients in those public funded projects, and also create some kind of framework, or if we can develop some kind of design model of how these digital solutions, at least at the core, be designed. So I am, just to be specific, how should the communication abilities in these digital solutions be provided? Not only to the organization that is trying to disseminate and create impact on certain topics, but also open up to the public. So should it be a two-way dialogue between the public that are interested in these topics, so you can draw more people into the process and help them to be more knowledge based? I think that could really be a shift in how public funding, not only to projects that involves women's health, but also beyond.
And from my perspective, I would say that it's first of all important to actually include women in this type of public funding, because based on history, there's been a lot of stigmatization, I would say, about women diseases and so on, and also excluding women from medical trials, for example. So I would say that the first step is, of course, to include women into public funding as much as we do with men and other groups of society. And also, apart from that, I would also say that when we do this, it's also important to focus on innovative solutions, and what we see here, for example, in the FEMaLe project, so that when we're spending money to improve healthcare, for example, that we use innovative solutions that can actually make a high impact and reduce cost as well.